Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another season preview where today we will be talking about Newcastle. We are here back together, and we want to talk about Newcastle as they will look to improve from their 12th place finish last year. But realistically, I don't really see them doing that. And we're going to talk about what Newcastle did this summer and what they look to do in this upcoming season as they will look to stay in the Premier League again for another year after a relatively quiet summer, but one where nonetheless where they did bring in a solid marquee signing. That being said, I'll give it off to Lane here to give his thoughts on Newcastle as far as their transfer window goes and their upcoming season.
Newcastle's had a very interesting offseason, bringing in the likes of Joe Willock, and today having lost Matty Longstaff to loan to Aberdeen. This will be a very interesting season for Newcastle after they haven't really lost anything, haven't really brought in anything besides Joe Willock, a guy who is really going to play for the club, put his heart and soul into the badge, a guy who really truly loves the game. And signing a 6-year deal, Joe Willock really shows and puts some emphasis onto that contract that he wants to show what he's got, play for Newcastle, earn a spot for England, and keep playing hard. And this will be a good season for him to learn and improve from last year. It'll be much needed for this Newcastle side who need to stay up and need to continue on that great form, finishing off the season last year.
Yeah, certainly. I think this acquisition of Joe Willock will be a good one. As you mentioned, him coming in and signing a 6-year deal, I think shows that his ambition, his want to be at Newcastle and continue to improve with the team. And what looks to be a fairly solid attack this year, adding another piece alongside St. Maximin and Callum Wilson, the likes of Joe Willock. Of course, he is still only 21, is going to have some growing pains and some things to learn as a regular in the Premier League in his first full campaign as a regular Premier League starter, but I have no doubts that he can be a solid piece of this Newcastle team this year and moving forward. As you mentioned, it's for Newcastle, it's going to be continuing to have to just try and stay up. As much as, of course, the Joe Willock signing is a positive, I don't think this is a Newcastle team that's really going to look to push any better than they did last year. The 11 teams in front of them last year are probably going to be ahead of them again, and you could argue that a couple of the teams that were behind them could jump ahead of them. I don't think Newcastle are in deep threat of being relegated, but I also wouldn't consider them a comfortable lock to stay up. I think they're still going to have to prove their worth and put in an effort week in and week out in the Premier League to make sure that they do stay up. I would definitely bet on them to stay up, but I don't think they're going to be comfortable. I think they're definitely going to have to work to put it in. They're going to be amongst those teams down at the bottom. I don't think they're going to finish as high as 12th, but the Joe Willock signing, good one. Callum Wilson will be back with the team again and continue to be a big piece. Hopefully St. Maximin can have a better year in the Premier League in his second campaign there. Almiron can hopefully continue to play well for them, and they can continue to be solid at the back. This is still a solid Newcastle side, but I just feel like this is a Newcastle side that is very neutral. They haven't done anything great. I don't feel overly concerned about this Newcastle team, but I also don't feel that there's any large amount of ambition that they're going to lead to anything better than just being a team that sits in around that 12th to 15th spot. I'm not considering them in grave danger, but I'm also not feeling that, yeah, they might start pushing for Europe anytime soon. I feel like they're just kind of sitting in the middle, and they're probably content with that right now, but that's kind of how I feel about this Newcastle team moving into next year.
Yeah, Newcastle are in a very interesting predicament after not bringing in too many players, but relegation is a very interesting thought for Newcastle. A lot of people do predict Newcastle to get relegated or be there or thereabouts. That is where I think they'll be. They'll be in that kind of talking point. I don't think they will go down, but it will be a very interesting time for Newcastle. I think, like you said, there is 11 teams quite better than Newcastle, so more than likely they won't improve. I think 12th would be a dream for Newcastle if they got back to 12th place once again. It would be quite surprising for me with the likes of a manager like Steve Bruce. He only has a certain kind of ceiling, and that back line is going to be shaky. You're going to have relatively being relying on that forward line quite a bit, the likes of Miguel Almiron and Matt Fraser on the right side, with Joe Willock and St. Maximin, and then Callum Wilson up top. You will rely on a lot of goals to keep you up because that back line is not the strongest. But I do think there's a lot of teams better than them and a couple teams behind them from last year who will continue to improve. I do see the likes of Newcastle finishing in the likes of 15th, 16th. I don't see them being in great danger of relegation, but I could easily see them slipping in if injuries and COVID and other things do come their way, because they could have a rough time if things don't go their way, because they do not have a team deep enough if there is injuries. If we see Callum Wilson go down or St. Maximin go down with an injury or COVID, things could get pretty ropey for Newcastle. I just don't see them improving. I see them getting lower down the table than they were just because the likes of Palace, Wolves, even Brighton are improving. It'll be a very interesting year for Newcastle United going into the 2021-2022 campaign.
Yeah, certainly. I think Newcastle will have to be one of those teams that you expect to drop down the table a bit, not necessarily due to any fault of their own, but some of the teams below them have just improved more than they have. And as you mentioned, that defense isn't rock solid by any stretch. They had one of the worst defensive records in the Premier League last year, conceding 62 goals, scoring 46, which was pretty much better than anyone else below them outside of Southampton. And as you mentioned, that's what did them the difference. It definitely wasn't the defense. The attack's going to have to continue to be good for them this year. I do have them sitting in and around that 15th spot as well for this upcoming season. I don't really see them doing any better than that. As you said, if they get in around 12th again, that's about as good as Newcastle are going to do, and something that has to be considered a big victory for them. But as long as they can stay up, I think it's a successful season for Newcastle. This team just isn't built to do anything much better than that. So as long as this team can get themselves into the Premier League, continue to get more money in a year now where the fans are back in the stadium and they can continue to bring in more money, more revenue, and look to improve in years moving forward. And I think that's a positive, and I think that's the way that Newcastle have to approach this season and the years moving forward until they can get into a position where they can invest a bit more and look to hopefully push into that top half of the Premier League table. But that is our thoughts on Newcastle in the upcoming 2021-22 Premier League campaign. Let us know down in the comment section what you guys think about Newcastle's upcoming season and their transfer window. And if you did enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and be sure to click the box on the right-hand side of the screen to check out our other Premier League season previews. With that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys in the next one.